The wind howled like a chorus of tormented souls as the Stevenson family's car fought against the relentless onslaught of the blizzard. John gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity, squinting through the thick veil of snow that obscured the road ahead. Beside him, Sarah clutched Emily's hand, her knuckles turning pale as they slid further into the abyss of the storm. Their faithful dog Max whimpered in the back seat, sensing the impending danger. "John, we need to find shelter." Sarah's voice was strained, barely audible above the roar of the wind. I know," John muttered through gritted teeth, his jaw clenched with determination. But the cabin they had spotted in the distance seemed impossibly far away, swallowed by the swirling storm. With each passing minute, the blizzard intensified, swallowing the landscape in an icy embrace. Then, with a sickening lurch, the car skidded off the road, spinning wildly before abruptly stopping. Emily uttered a terrified cry as the world outside became a blur of white. "We're stuck." Sarah's voice quivered with dread as she surveyed their predicament. "What do we do now?" John's heart pounded in his chest as he glanced around at his family, their faces pale with fear. Amid the storm, surrounded by darkness and uncertainty, the remote cabin loomed like a beacon of hope, a refuge from the horrors of the night. But little did they know, the true terror lay waiting for them within its icy walls. The cabin loomed ahead, a dark silhouette against the relentless onslaught of the blizzard. Despite the gnawing feeling of unease, John, Sarah, Emily, and Max trudged towards it, their footsteps muffled by the thick snow covering the ground. The wind howled around them, whipping icy tendrils of snow into their faces with each gust. As they approached the cabin, it appeared abandoned, a decrepit relic of a bygone era, its windows boarded up and its door hanging off its hinges. Yet, it was the only refuge from the relentless storm that raged outside, and with no other options, they entered. Inside, the atmosphere was oppressive, the air heavy with a palpable dread that seemed to seep into their bones. Emily involuntarily shivered as she surveyed their surroundings, her gaze darting nervously from one shadowy corner to the next. Strange occurrences began almost immediately. Flickering lights cast dancing shadows across the walls while doors slammed shut with a loud bang. Unexplained whispers echoed through the cabin, barely audible above the howling wind outside. Max whimpered at their feet, his tail tucked between his legs as he cowered in fear. Emily's heart raced as she swore she saw fleeting shadows moving in the corners of her vision shapes that seemed to vanish as soon as she tried to focus on them. She clung to her parents, her hands trembling with fear as the oppressive atmosphere of the cabin closed in around them like a vice. Little did they know, the true horrors of the night had only just begun to reveal themselves. John lit a fire in the fireplace. It crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the worn wooden floor of the cabin. Despite the warmth emanating from the flames, a palpable sense of unease hung heavy in the air, weighing down on John, Sarah, Emily, and Max as they huddled together on the threadbare couch. Their unease deepened as they uncovered unsettling artifacts throughout the cabin: a rusted lantern, a faded photograph, and a weathered journal with frayed edges. Sarah's fingers trembled as she flipped through its yellowed pages, her eyes widening in horror as she read aloud. "The cabin is said to be cursed by a banshee," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Doomed to wander the frozen landscape and haunt the cabin for eternity." John scoffed, dismissing the legend as nothing more than superstition. "It's just an old wives' tale," he insisted, his tone brusque as he stoked the fire. "There's nothing out there but the wind and snow." But Emily couldn't shake the dread that had settled over her like a shroud. She shivered, pulling her coat tighter around her shoulders as the wind howled outside, carrying with it sounds like the mournful cries of a banshee. As the night wore on, the storm outside intensified, the howling winds battering against the cabin walls with renewed fury. The snow piled higher against the windows with each gust, obscuring any trace of the outside world. Yet, it was not just the relentless blizzard that sent chills down the spines of John, Sarah, Emily, and Max. It was the mournful wails of the banshee that echoed through the darkness, filling the air with a sense of impending doom. Sarah paced the length of the cabin, her eyes darting nervously toward the boarded-up windows. "We're not alone in here," she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. "I can feel it." John scoffed, his brow furrowed with skepticism. "It's just the storm playing tricks on your mind," he insisted, though the uneasy knot in his stomach told him otherwise. Emily sat huddled in the corner, her arms wrapped tightly around her trembling form as she stared into the flickering flames of the fireplace. Nightmares of icy specters haunted her vision, their ghostly dancing in the fire. Sensing the growing tension among his family, Max whimpered softly, his tail tucked between his legs as he crouched beneath the table. His keen senses told him something was wrong, that they were not safe here. As the banshee's mournful cries grew louder and more haunting with every passing moment, tensions among the family members reached a boiling point, threatening to tear them apart from within. Max's behavior grew increasingly erratic, his timid and anxious demeanor replaced by an uncharacteristic aggression. He paced the length of the cabin, his hackles raised and teeth bared in a silent warning to unseen threats. Emily reached out tentatively, her hand trembling as she attempted to soothe the agitated dog. Still, Max recoiled, emitting a low growl that sent shivers down her spine. "What's wrong, Max?" Sarah's voice quivered with fear as she watched the scene unfold. She exchanged a worried glance with John, her heart pounding in her chest as she struggled to make sense of the situation. John's brow furrowed with concern as he approached Max cautiously, his movements slow and deliberate. "Easy, boy," he murmured, his voice laced with uncertainty. "It's okay." But his attempts to calm the dog only seemed to agitate him further, his growls growing louder and more menacing with each passing moment. Panic began to grip the family as they realized they were no longer dealing with mere superstition, but something far more sinister, lurking within the confines of the cabin. As tension gripped the Stevenson family like icy tendrils, they realized that confronting the banshee head-on was their only chance of survival. Guided by the cryptic clues from the weathered journal, they embarked on a treacherous journey into the heart of darkness that lurked within the cabin's walls. Each step forward felt like a descent into madness, the oppressive atmosphere of the cabin weighing heavily on their souls. Sarah's hands shook as she clutched the journal, eyes scanning its pages for guidance. Emily's heart raced with fear and determination, her breath coming in ragged gasps as they delved deeper into the cabin's dark history. They uncovered long-buried secrets hidden within the shadows of the past, each revelation bringing them closer to understanding the truth behind the Banshee's curse. John's resolve hardened with each step forward, his determination to protect his family driving him forward despite the ever-present threat of danger. They came face to face with the Banshee, their hearts pounding with fear and resolve. As they stood before the spectral figure, John flipped through the weathered journal for guidance. He found instructions to create a symbol of release, a sigil believed to banish evil spirits. With trembling hands, he reached for a piece of charcoal and began to draw the sigil on the cabin walls, the symbol taking shape beneath his fingertips. Their voices trembled as they spoke, each word a prayer for the Banshee's release. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and her voice choked with emotion as visions of the injustice that had plagued the Banshee for centuries danced in her mind. Emily added her voice to the chorus, her words a plea for forgiveness and redemption. As they finished drawing the symbol, a sense of peace descended upon the cabin, the oppressive atmosphere lifting like a veil. The Banshee's mournful cries softened into whispers, her vengeful spirit finally finding release from the icy grip of the curse. With the dawn came a sense of catharsis and renewal. The the scars of their ordeal serving as a reminder of the strength they had found in the face of darkness. As the first light of morning peeked through the cabin windows, illuminating the snow-covered landscape with a soft, golden glow, the storm that had raged outside all night began to lift. The howling winds subsided, and the snowfall slowed to a gentle flurry, creating a serene scene of winter tranquility. As they left the cabin behind, they felt a weight lifting from their shoulders, replaced by a newfound sense of hope and resilience. Though the memory of their encounter with the Banshee would linger in their minds for years to come, they knew they had emerged from the darkness more robust and united than ever. Thank you for joining us on another spine-tingling journey into the realms of the supernatural on Wicked Haunting Tales. If you relish the thrill of mysteries that send shivers down your spine and stories that linger in the shadows, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a wicked tale. Your support keeps the darkness alive. Until next time, brace yourself for more chilling tales that will leave you questioning reality. Stay haunted, stay wicked.